Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where it's about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about The Bear, Season 2, Episode 8. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we finally have Ebro returning, and he kind of has this almost like walk of shame, because it seems like ever since he quit that culinary school, it seems like he hasn't been back. Tina hasn't seen him since, and I think it's just sadly like shame kind of kept him from contacting her. So they kind of have their back and forth, it's like, oh, how can I help you, ma'am? Well, thank you, sir. And just him just saying like, right, for some people, it's just, once again, he liked things being what they were. I brought this up previously. It is very much like how Richie has been up until this time, how Tina was in like the first half of season 1, where it's like, right, they wanted things to stay the same, because I think Ebert was just too scared, because he's like, right, I'm so accustomed to things being the way they are, and if we step outside of that, where's my place in it? That's where everyone's just trying to find their place. Richie trying to find his place and found his place and is trying to solidify that this episode. We'll get to that soon enough, but the whole situation with Ebro is just like, yeah, he kind of got scared, and Tina's like, yeah, that's what B-words kind of do, but then they have badasses around him who kind of make it okay, so they don't have to kind of go through this alone. It's like, you had me, you weren't going through this alone. The fact is, you had all of us here for you, and Ebro recognizes that too, and he's sorry that he just kind of bailed, but I mean, it's understandable. He got scared, and so when it's all said and done, though, it's like, right, he is kind of welcome back. It's like they are going to try the drive-through thing of kind of like the OG food is going to be more like they're going to have their meal for the bear. That is just I think the restaurant itself is going to be like the bear stuff, but then the drive-through stuff is mainly going to be like some stuff they're going to do from like the OG, I guess, beef meal is kind of what I'm interpreting for what Tina meant when she said like the OG. So, but just kind of seeing this well-oiled machine, the thing I was most excited about, especially after last episode, is what is everyone's reaction going to be to Richie? I love when he comes in, he's like, cousin, before you laugh, and it's like, no one's laughing, G. It's just like, but he's like, I get it, I fully understand it now. Like, I kind of thought you were just like punishing me, but like, I see that you helped me grow, that you do have faith in me, that I'm going to do this. And that beautiful moment he had with Nat, where like, okay, brought Gary in because we need a witness to this, and he was sincere with his apology. It's like, I'm sorry. She's like, for what? He's like, for everything. He's like, the fact is, I didn't know where I belong, and I tried so hard to fit into places I definitely didn't belong, and that might have. He's like, no, definitely made things worse, and I'm sorry about that. And so for him, it's like, I'm doing this and I'm going to be better about it. The fact of the matter is, let me help you with the stuff you don't want to do, because you're good at so many things that I don't know how to do. I think you and me, we can be a good fit together as partners. So, and I think for Natalie, she needs that with everything, especially the baby on the way. Like, I think she needs to alleviate some of that stress. She needed, but like Richie was just so busy, and he's like, yeah, sometimes I might have, and I apologize if I've ever treated you like shit. I even love fapping like, yo, why are you wearing this suit? And he's like, why are you covered in shit? It's like, because I was working on a suppression system. He's like, well, I wear suits now. He's like, that's so sick. I love that. But even Gary was like, yeah, that's severe. That felt genuine. It felt like real soul, no GNR. And I'm like, what does he mean by GNR? I'm curious. But it was just like, once again, everyone's reaction, even Tina be like, yo, look at you in this suit. It's like, did you come from a funeral? It's like, yeah, only the funeral of my enemies. I was like, yeah, it's legitimately the thing I love the most about this episode. Even Sid being like, because he was like, yo, if there's anything you need, just let me know. Because it's like, right, do you mind if I talked to Carmen and he told me, like, see if it was okay with you to use, like, the whole message from Michael, the whole, like, phrase, the whole saying, like, oh, I'm blanking on the first part, but the let it rip of it all. And it's like, oh, did you have any sayings in your family? And she's like, no, I'm the only one. I'm the only child. And Richie's like, yeah, same in my case. She's like, but luckily you had Carm and Nat. He's like, yeah, I was really lucky, but you got them too now. So it's like, hey, if you need anything, I got you. He even helped Natalie with the interview, where it's like, oh yeah, that person, yeah, she's not the person. And Nat's like, why? He's like, I purposely turned this napkin, and it's like it completely messes up like that, like everything's supposed to be like even, and I tilted it, turned it just as a test. If she stared at and she didn't do anything, if she was really good at what she does, she would have been on top of that. Sitting there for 20 minutes staring at would have driven her insane, and she never bothered fixing it. That's why she's not our person. And it's like, you want stars, like that ain't a star player we need involved. And that was like, wow. Like, once again, it's like Richie's really about this. Even later on when he's doing everything, he's like, yo, Carm, what you think about it? And Carm was like looking at like how like the glasses and the plates and the forks and everything were lined up. He was like, it's beautiful, man. You know, I thought, I love it so much. I'm like, yeah, look at Richie. Our boy's grown up. You know, it's really, because I was so scared that he would fall back into bad habits, like when things kind of went sideways last episode. They only went sideways because, like, okay, he can't really get hired. Once again, he was still looking for his place, and he even told Natalie, like, I need this place to work, which even Gary corrected is like, we all need this place to work. So, no, that was interesting. You got Tina kind of bringing in the new hires and kind of, you know, like looking them up and down. It's like, all right, kind of come in, you greenhorns. And, you know, it's like, oh, how green are they? Oh, emeralds. I love the Sid and Carmen of it all, because I thought because in retrospect, I was thinking when Carmen was like, oh yeah, I was telling Claire about this time my mom drove a car through our house. I was like, wait, was he telling episode 6? Because I'm curious, like, timeline-wise, because obviously there was, like, a couple days over the course of, like, Richie's episode. So I was curious. I was like, could it be that the entirety of episode 6 was... It's out of sync from the rest of the season, but it's like, that was last night, because he was like, oh, I was having a panic attack. It could easily just be in, like, no, we got that backstory, and now Carmen's just happened to tell her that last night after having a panic attack, and, you know... But I would like to think, I don't think it's like this. And because once again, I'm a nut about time frames and stuff, but I like the idea, the thought that, yes, that episode happened in episode 6, so it's a little earlier in the season, but I like to think that Carmen, the reason why we kind of got in the flashback movie way we did is because Carmen was retelling that story to Claire last night because he was having a panic attack, even though like the Richie stuff was still technically ongoing at that time because he only just first showed up back at the Bear now. So that's just me. Once again, I'm just being crazy about it. He most likely had that story. That episode was unrelated to him telling Claire. It's just we as the audience got that backstory, which I even love. Like none of the others had heard that because even Marcus is like, "Well, your mom drove a car through that." It's like I guess Mike had never mentioned that. But it's like, yeah. And he'd even brought up, like, yeah, I've kind of had this, like, issue with canolas because of that. It'd always be a tradition. Like, that's the thing of, at the end of the episode, both him and Nat were just staring off in different directions, kind of blanked out. He was staring at the cannolis. And it's like, right, he always had his issue with them. But it's like, yeah, because they reminded him too much of his own dysfunctional family. So that's why he never wanted anything to do with them. But now he's like, okay, I think we should add him to the menu, like the more savory. And it's like, no, that sounds good. That sounds healthy. But later on, him and, because he keeps bringing up Claire all the time, which is like, is she your girlfriend? He's like, no, that's a girl who's my friend. And Sid's like, girl who's your friend? Are you serious? That's super messed up. It's like, yeah, you got to figure that shit out. And because he's going to Claire so much because she's kind of his sounding board, like bouncing ideas and stuff off of. But Sid's like, no, we're partners. I didn't know, like, oh, we also are involving Claire and all of this. Like, obviously she was getting a little heated because I think for a while now, Sid has kind of not felt heard or seen because now it's like, oh, you're now doing the chaos menu because Claire said it. And she's like, I didn't know she was involved in all this. Like, okay, that's the whole, rubbing the chest thing and be like, okay, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I kind of went off like that. It's just like, it's like, right. Or do and clarify, like, okay, is Claire your girlfriend or not? You need to figure that out first and foremost. He's like, is that me being shitty? She's like, yeah. He's like, I don't want to be shitty. She's like, well, then don't be. He's like, yeah, just don't be shitty. And she's like, come on. Like, I think for Carmen, it's like, I don't want to be, but it's like, I come from a shitty family and that is kind of like, is that all I know how to? Like, can I break myself free of the cycle of crazy shit that is my family? As we got to witness that firsthand and first and foremost, get a bird's we were flies on the wall of that Christmas dinner that the entire family was at in episode 6. So, but once again, I also get why Sid was kind of heated the way she was because once again, like that's been something she's had to deal with. And Carmen's like, right, if I'm fucking up, do let me know, and I'm gonna try and fix that. Because I guess maybe in the time we've been away from Carmen and Sid, because we've only peeked in here and there with the Bear since episode 4. I think episode 5 when he kind of blew up at Sid when he invited Claire over. I think we hadn't seen him in like 3 episodes. Didn't see them at all, obviously, in episode 6. In episode 7, we only got like Fack and no, we got a little bit of like the opening with the restaurant and stuff and kind of seeing how everything at the Bear was going in that capacity, but not where things between Carm and Sid stood. So seems like they're good, but I think maybe there still is some underlining stuff, or maybe they're still working through it. It's like, all right, we know there's kind of some issues, but we are working about it. We're going to keep each other abreast of how we're feeling, because that's how we're going to make sure we find our way back to the middle and not just be on opposite ends of things. Like, no, we got to find this middle ground because we are in this together. So Jimmy kind of came with the bad news of, okay, so what you need to do, this restaurant needs to be open in 14 days. You thought you had 14 days, actually you got 10. You really like, it's like you're pushing it. It's like at best is 6, real world wise 9, but it's like, can you really get this place up and running in 10? Because they also had their final suppression thing, because if they failed this fire suppression test, because they're at level 2 now, if they failed this one, then it's going to be another 3 weeks, so they can't open, and that's going to set back everything. So they are, as they said, fucked if they don't. And I love that there's this bit of just like no one like takes notice of it, but it's just like, as in like no one brings notice of it. It's just you constantly see like the passing around of the Pepto-Bismol. It's like at one point Fack was just like, yo, pass it to me, and Carmen was taking some. I think we even saw Richie with some at one point in time. I don't know if it's the same bottle that they're just passing around, almost like it's a shot of whiskey of life. Ooh boy. So because Fack is on top of it trying to figure out the fire suppression thing, but he can't get the gas to turn off. He's like, I don't know what it is. And it's not until he looked at Ebro's picture of like, oh yeah, it burned in the restaurant. And I love the whole Jewish lightning. And it's like, Nat's like, Fack, Neil, you can't say that. He's like, I didn't say it. She's like, I heard you. He's like, well, what? And he figured it out. He went to Richie and he's like, dude, he was like, Jewish lightning. And Richie's like, you can't say that. It's like, even though he's the one that kind of started all of this a couple episodes back, but it's like, okay, he figured it out. It's like, okay, so yes, Mike did try to burn down the restaurant. I was like, yes, we all kind of already knew that. He's like, no, but the thing is, Mike did it by setting a fire and overriding the fire suppression system so that the gas would never turn off, so it would never try to like put the fire out. And it's like, all right, get on top of that. And then you had this tense moment of like, okay, the fire suppression guy just shows up. It's like everyone's waiting in line, and this beautiful cut back and forth with just like moments for everybody. Like for Nat, it flashes back to that dinner situation with her mom kind of grilling her, getting in her face, and then like her sitting on the chair with Pete, just like, okay, this is it. Just like that for everybody, like going down the line, like some pretty important stuff for them of like, yeah, it's all riding on this. I mean, especially for Sid, because like all the failures that come before, like her previous business that kind of fell apart, it's like so much riding on this. And the fire suppressor guy says, yeah, you pass it. And it's like, all right, let's do it, baby. Like, it's time to kind of get things in full motion. So Tina had just gotten the new equipment earlier, so they're all doing their thing. I even love that Marcus situation where it's like, yeah, he had prepared a dessert, and like Carmen had tasted. He was like, Marcus, for real. And you could tell it's like, once again, just like everyone's growing and changing, like, and they're all coming back from their respective journeys, whether it's everything that Ebro and Tina went through, Marcus in Copenhagen, Richie at the restaurant last episode. Everyone's kind of coming together. Even Carmen asking Fack is like, is Claire my girlfriend? It's like, oh yeah, like girlfriend is such a weird fucking thing. It's like, do you love her? And it's like, I like her. I like her. I love her a lot. And so it's like, all right. And he even said like, yo, I gotta go, check on my girlfriend or something like that. He told Richie, which as we know, Richie and Mike were trying to set him up with her in episode 6. So kind of back then. So I think for Richie, it probably means a lot for him to hear like, oh no, that she's actually your girlfriend. I'm happy for you. Sadly where things stand between him and Tiff, but I think for him it's like, I don't have to worry about that right now. I found my focus. I found my place to belong, and I'm going to stick it out, and I'm going to do my thing, Especially too, when you could, like, everything seems to be going in order, but the sad thing is, Carmen even said at the beginning of the episode, he's just like, I'm just waiting, and Claire's like, for the other shoe to drop, and he's like, well, no one's counting the amount of shoes, and it's like, she's saying that, but I do believe there is going to be a shoe drop. In what capacity, I have no idea, and that's going to be the rough thing. I think it's foreshadowing, like, that shoe is going to drop, and you just don't know how, but it's like, oh, we're doing good, everything worked out this episode, everything's great, but I think in the next 2 episodes, maybe even the season finale, we're going to see that shoe drop. I won't say how I know. Like, there's something I read that made me go like, oh, it sounds like this season finale is going to be devastating. I'll kind of leave it at that. But yeah, it just feels like that other shoe is going to drop. Maybe episode 10, but maybe just next episode in episode 9. Oh yeah, I skipped over it, but I did like that conversation between Jimmy and Nat, where she was like, right, if you could do it over again, would you have kids? He was like, no. And she's like, oh, okay. It's like really not the best thing to kind of say to an expecting mother. But for him, it's like, it's just, no, I would want to have them again. But it's just like, I would make sure I'd give them more breathing room, allow them to make mistakes, allow them to kind of fail, kind of allow them just kind of breathe a little bit, like not be so overprotective. I wonder on some level, it's probably not this, but I wonder on some level, did the situation with the family, like with Carmen and Nat's mom, like I wonder, does that play any way or shape or form in how Jimmy went about raising his kids? I'm curious if that was kind of an influence, and that's why he's probably like, I wouldn't let your family circumstances influence how I raised my family. I would have let them kind of have a little bit more freedom and autonomy, but just probably like the state of what the world is, and I'm just kind of scared for them, but I would loosen up. I wouldn't be as fearful. I just kind of let them go out there and live their lives, and just kind of, hey, once again, you fail, and that's okay, and I don't have to be so overprotective. I thought that was a really sweet thing, and I think Natalie really appreciated that response, because I guess you could almost look at it as like, hey, here she is spreading her wings. All of them are spreading their wings. Her, Richie, and Carmen, as well as everyone else too, spreading their wings and not being, allowed. I mean, they've been allowed to fail up until now, but I mean, this is kind of a time where you can't fail. You got to kind of give it your all. Like I said, it all worked out in the end, so. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.